just try to be aware and think about where are the bottlenecks in your business, right?
Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Good morning. You guys hear me okay?
You're good, Michael. How are you?
Fantastic.
Are you ready to dive on in?
I'm ready to dive in. I'm excited. This is definitely a favorite topic of mine. I need more leverage in my life, just like all of you, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I saw this one. So this is our second Agent Power Huddle this week with Michael. He's an incredible team leader out of Ohio, and I saw the topic, which is a perfect one for you to talk about, which is how you can add leverage now, right? Creating opportunities in your business without giving up your core competencies. That's a lot to cover in a single podcast. And I'm excited. Where do you want to dive into that, Michael?
You could go in a lot of different directions. I think, people first start talking about leverage in real estate. A lot of people go to just the simple fact in our business, the business of selling real estate. It is a job, an industry where we have more responsibilities, a wider range of responsibilities than any other job I've ever had, anything else I've ever seen. And, you have the need, obviously, to be that front person out building relationships, being the salesperson, but then you have to be the detail-oriented person who's making sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed. We're dealing with, contracts after all. So details are important, and it's not everybody who has the skill set to take care of everything. And then on top of all that, just like any other business, you can't grow a huge business just on your own and without, building through people and tools. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
So when you talk about first of all, what's your definition of leverage? Let's start there. When you think about you like leverage, how do you define leverage? Leverage
to me is just, expanding the breadth of what I can accomplish through either a team of people, human leverage, and then tools, technology, those types of resources. And that's, building through others, a combination of tools and people, I think, is what summarizes it for me.
I love it. And then so you do have a sales team, but I imagine when you talk leverage, you probably look for ways that the agents on your team can use leverage. You don't have to necessarily hire staff and have people this is leverage in all sorts of areas of your business, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And another piece of leverage that we don't talk about as much would be education, right? I feel like education and growth, personal growth is what helps us all take it to the next level, to stay on top of, how to best utilize leverage. So I, for one, will be attending 4 conferences over the next 6 weeks. So it's the season for me for that. So I definitely value education as a piece of leverage as well. But
I love that. All right, we're going to come back to education. We're going to dive into to that part of that today. I want to make a note of that. But I wonder, when you're first starting, if someone's looking at their life, their personal life or their work life, and they're trying to figure out, what are my core competencies and where should I add in leverage? Should someone start, first of all?
So I think the first piece of leverage, let's say, we're talking about a new agent just getting into the business and kind of getting going. You have to lean on your brokerage and your team for, resources and learning and training and, identifying who you're, who and then where are your opportunities coming from? And then you're at a point where you've got a good amount of business and you're feeling like you're busy and things are slipping through the cracks. I think the first piece of leverage that a lot of agents ramping up their business look to is getting help on the transaction side. More often than not, naturally, people in our business are salespeople and kind of go into it anticipating that that's going to have to be one of their core competencies is, building rapport, building trust, and finding people to work with, right? So we're often expecting that and, build that as a strength. But in looking at, for help, for assistance in building the business, it's nice to be able to take the transaction coordination, listing input, some of those pieces, and you can find, at a very reasonable cost, ways to offload some of that. And frankly, for me, it was finding somebody who's, going to not only take it off my plate, but do a better job. Stay on top of it and keep the referrals will keep coming instead of having it be, a bumpy road on the way to a closing. So.
Yeah, so that's the first piece of leverage you look to as agent would be transaction coordination. Mm-hmm. How about from like a tools standpoint, right? Because I always think about there's three ways to leverage, right? You can leverage through systems, technology, and people. Do you follow the same basic rule, like in terms of like ways? Would you use those categories for leverage, or any categories I'm missing?
No, I think that covers it. I think it's a lot of crossover in systems and technology, right?
Yeah, and so I tend to always look for like the people side, because I think that's where a lot of people are lacking. But let's first start with because you're a systems guy. Let's look at systems. Let's look at technology. If you're looking for ways that people can create leverage and create opportunities without giving up what their core competencies are, what should they look to as far as systems and technology?
Absolutely. So I think one of the most important systems for me, it was just identifying the fact that my calendar equals my life. And so living by my calendar was, it was something I had kind of done. I've always, ran off my calendar, run my day off my calendar. But once it came to scaling a real estate business, I realized how important it was to truly, if it's not in my calendar, it's not in my day. And that's how I have to operate. And so I know it's a simple one, but, operating with a calendar, budgeting time for the most important things is really the key for that. And then, of course, a close second became our CRM system, our client relationship management system, a place to, maintain all of the relationships, keep track of, who's in my network, systemize follow-up and reminders for me to reach out to friends, family, past clients, potential clients. And then on top of that, most CRM systems they're all different. They have different features, but some of the most basic systems that come through that is going to be simply emails with, their search updates and getting homes in front of them. And then text messages, following up with people who are poking around on your website. The CRM, I think, with my calendar are the two things that come to mind to me as the biggest differentiators in just kind of getting going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you say that calendar is such a simple thing, but I'll do a little be honest here. I heard trainers, and I've been in real estate for 20 years. I heard trainers and coaches and people tell me to use a calendar and they said there's freedom in a calendar. I'm like, what are you talking about? For years and years, until finally it clicked at one point. But I mean, I've probably been in real estate for 10 years before I even ever really used the calendar. Like, was it for you? Is that something you embraced immediately, or did you kind of get?
Yeah, that took work for me. It was not natural for me to have everything in one place like that and keep it very organized. But I did find some freedom in that, right? And I found some balance, able to do some of the things I like to do and want to do, and budget time for personal things and family and others, but then making sure that I'm not missing my time for, the income generating activities that we have to stay engaged in on a regular and consistent basis in order to be successful.
Yeah. Do you ever read the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen? Did you ever read that one?
I have not seen that one. No.
So that's a really great book on productivity. And as you're describing these things, there's a concept he talks about in this book called the external brain. The external brain, and it's basically his version of leverage has to do with using things like you just said, a calendar, a CRM, to do the things that are like, why take brain power for those things when you could have your external brain do that and use your brain for things you're better at? Is that kind of what you're talking about when we say we're creating leverage without giving up our core competencies for you?
Yes, it is. It is. Now that I do have a team, one of the exercises I like to do as our team grows and as we grow as individuals and grow our business, like to take time with each of our team members and kind of take on an annual basis, kind of dive in and take a look at what they like to do, what they don't like to do, what they're good at and what they're not good at. And I have, we break it down into a quadrant, and it helps identify, where are the core competencies. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but if you draw your axis there and identify a list of your things that you are doing on a daily basis, and which of them do you like to do and not like to do? And then which of them are you good at and are you not good at? And we want to obviously focus more on what we're good at and what we like to do. And the first things that we want to take off of our plate are those that we're not good at, we're bad at, and we don't like to do them, right? And so those aren't the same for everybody. Everyone's different. And when you get to a point where you're adding human leverage, all types of leverage, this applies, but especially human leverage, you're trying to balance roles and responsibilities within a team. That's a critical piece for me. And that's identifying, this is my core competency and what I love to do versus this is not my core competency. Don't leverage your core competency for something that you don't like to do. That's just not going to be a path to success.
I love that. Hold that little piece of paper up again. I never thought about doing a self-inventory like that way, because it almost looks like a SWOT analysis. So you've got in the upper left, it says good/like, upper right, it says bad/like, then the lower side, you have good dislike and bad dislike. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And going through that exercise is something that we do, and we just break down all of the things that we're doing. You just start off making a list of everything that you do. And, we don't always have that list. So sometimes it takes a week or so of each person on our team just documenting, hey, I'm doing this. I'm stuffing envelopes today. We're doing our mailers, whatever it is, like every little thing. If you make a list and then identify, all right, there's essentially 30 things or so that I do any given week, and then break those down into your 4 quadrants, that's going to, kind of paint a picture for, hey, here's how we can pivot. So
I love that. So I don't know if you guys call it a time study. I've always heard that is called a time study, right? Where you write down what you do for a couple of days or up to a week, and you literally carry a yellow pad of paper with you, set an alarm on your phone for every 30 minutes or every hour, and write down what you did for the last hour. Those of you on camera, just raise your hand. Has anyone ever done a time study? I'm curious to see that. Those of you guys here, is anyone? No. Okay. I think this is one of the most powerful things you can do to really take an honest look at what you do in your week. Do you find, are your team agents surprised, Michael, when you guys do these time studies and you kind of look back at the things they're doing where they can find some leverage?
They do. They're like, wow, I didn't realize I did so much stuff. And then usually we're talking about things that we're not doing as a team that we need to be doing. And so it's just a great way to kind of break down, all right, priorities, right? Where are the priorities? What has to get done? What do we want to get done? And, just kind of, again, taking everything and then building it back into our calendar appropriately. So,
and I imagine that the reason to do it every year is it changes over time. The things that are important where you're at in your business, correct?
It does. And yeah, as you grow, as the market changes, our activities change, and you've got this idea on what you need, and then all of a sudden you add an assistant or bring a per transaction a coordinator in a per transaction basis. And then all of a sudden everything shuffles. You get all this extra time where you didn't before, and so you kind of, after a year of like letting the dust settle, need to kind of reassess So I do think it's important to kind of stay on top of that. And yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of our business is things are constantly changing. So we need to be changing our actions in order to be changing our outcomes.
I love it. All right. So let's talk for a minute now. If you want to include the people side of leverage or any other tech or systems, then I do want to come back to education. So what are some of the common mistakes you see people making when they're trying to leverage through people?
I would say the easiest thing, the best approach when you're looking to add your very first person, brings the very first person into your business, and you're worried about the cost is always a concern, because hey, you're going to commit paying somebody aside from your transactions. We live by the paycheck. Our paychecks come when deals close, and here you're going to tell somebody else you're going to pay them separate from that. Well, if you can bring your first person in and have their compensation attached to the closings, then that's an obvious win-win for me. In my first real estate office, when I was watching people try to build their teams around me, I noticed that people were skipping that, and they were trying to hire an assistant, either part-time or full-time, and paying them, near or close to minimum wage. And I watched time and time again, there's maybe 6 offices with producing agents and an assistant. The number of times these assistants turned over, people would come in, it wouldn't work out, and they'd have to start fresh. I think the way to go is to find somebody who's proven that they can be a transaction coordinator, pay them on a per transaction basis, and then waiting until you're at a point where you can afford somebody who can operate at a higher level. Somebody who's going to be not just your assistant, but bringing ideas and bringing significant value to your business. I think was the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book where I read, hey, it's important to recognize that your first hire may end up being someday your CEO of your company, right? So I took that to heart and waited before I hired anybody. I found, it paid more than double what the minimum wage was, and made sure I had the right person before doing that. So.
And so when you hired that person, did they take over both transaction coordination, right, TC duties, as well as other things, or did you keep those roles separate?
You know what? The idea was that she was going to take it over, but we quickly realized that it made sense to continue having our per deal transaction coordinator continue doing some of what he was doing, so that we had the bandwidth to. For my colleague to spend more of her time in other areas to help grow the business. So, but I think the plan was, for her to do everything on the administrative side, take off, especially the things that I was just not good at, the dislikes and the not good at, and free me up to go out and find more business and make sure that, opportunities weren't slipping through the cracks. That's the point at which you're looking to make that hire, is when you feel like you're literally missing out on business opportunities because your lack of bandwidth.
How do you know if you're missing out on business opportunities? Because like in this market right now, I know some people they're doing, it depends on the agent. Some agents are doing a lot of prospecting activities and it's turning into results. Some agents are not finding the same traction. So how can you really assess, given the market right now, if you think you're missing out on opportunities?
I would say that you can tell if it's a different market now, but your phone is obviously, your connection to your world and your business. And so if you're getting calls and missing calls and, not able to field appointments, or, having those conversations with someone who wants to go see a property, and you're not available because you're showing someone else property at that time. Those are just a couple examples. Or, you're feeling guilty about taking on another client or taking on another showing because deep down that, you need to get behind your computer and work on, your ROC or removal or inspection work or whatever it is on a current transaction. I think when and the stuff is just, you feel like you're always behind, just a feel of overwhelm.
Yeah. I get that. I just wanted you to spell it out. I like it. All right. So we got about 10 minutes. I do want to cover, because I'd never really thought of education. You mentioned at the beginning that you use education as leverage. I never thought about that. And I love it. You're going to a bunch of events and conferences in the next, month and a half. So how do you see education, and tell us about some of the, some things that you're looking to learn?
Sure. So, education is leverage. I see, education as an investment. It's not just an expense, it's an investment in yourself. And so, when it comes down to growing your business, motivation is important, drive is important, desire is important. But at the end of the day, the smarter agent will win every time. So for me, I like to surround myself with people who are doing more than I am, who I can learn from. And, doing that, I think is what's led me to take any significant step in my business. It's because I've seen someone else do it and be successful, or spoken with someone who tried it a different way that I had considered and failed. And so that's what education is all about to me, is just learning someone else's lessons. And it gives you a chance to skip the failures. That we talk about failing forward, and failing forward is important. I'd rather act and fail than just sit in my hands. But at the same time, if you can learn from someone else's successes and mistakes, that is, to me, the ultimate trigger, the ultimate lever to move forward quickly.
Well, I love that. And there's all different forms of education. If you're looking to learn someone else's lessons, I mean, you could literally, people listening to this podcast right now who are on the Zoom with us live, I'm assuming they're learning. That's why they're here. They're here to grow. You're actually going physically to a lot of events, which you're looking at as like an investment in yourself. And by the way, we're not selling any events. We're not pitching anything. Michael's not selling coaching. I'm truly just talking about how his team sells homes in Cleveland at a really high level. If you want to duplicate success, you want to model after people who've got there. So why? I mean, I've always loved events too, but why is it for you? Are you getting on a plane and going to events and spending time and money? You've got a family, you're going away from your kids, because that's a lot of events you're going to next few months, you said.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I do. It's a combination of things. I think, it's funny, in a different meeting this morning, I heard somebody use the phrase entertainment. And it was a conversation we were having about, bringing in a speaker for our local chamber of commerce to come talk. And we're discussing, well, what are people looking for? Are they looking for motivation? Are they looking for excitement, enthusiasm? Or are they looking for education and training? And someone said entertainment. And to me, that's what I'm looking for is, I go and I get energized by being around like-minded people, people who are successful, people who are willing to share. But it's at the same time bringing that and tying that energy with new ideas and plans and actions is what brings it all home. So when I go somewhere in person, a couple things are happening. One, I'm taking money out of my own pocket to spend it, to go there. And so you're invested. Something about being invested in the experience. You're subconsciously, consciously, you are going to be certain that you're taking something away that you can bring back and put into your business. But yeah, I mean, they don't have the ability to network with high level team leaders or high producing agents the same way I do locally as I do when I'm abroad. So
it makes total sense. And I know this is kind of, we're deviating from the topic of leverages for a minute, but I am curious, because there's a lot of people listening to this who probably do go to events. When you go to events, because you're a very innovative guy and you like to get new things, how do you put them how do you put them into action? Because it's easy to get yourself excited when you're at the event. You come back and it's back to real life, and you have clients and family and deals. And like, I'm seeing heads nodding as I'm saying this, right? How does it work for you? How do you get this stuff implemented?
Yeah. I mean, I've learned that you've got to obviously take a lot of notes. I take a lot of notes when I'm on these events, and then on the way back on the plane typically, and then my first day back in the office or at my desk, I'm just kind of prioritizing, making a list of all the different ideas, things I wanted to put into motion, sharing it with people in my office, and then, kind of trying to figure out, all right, what are the top 3 or 4 things that we want to start pushing forward right now, and acting on them. And if you can't get that started quickly, it's easy to just kind of let it fall to the wayside. And next thing you know, you're up to your ears and showings and writing offers or whatever else. Right. So
I thought we were deviating from leverage, but I realized we weren't. Prioritizing is leverage, right? You go to this event, think about it. You take so that was a very easy action. You take lots of notes. And then on the plane home, you're maximizing that time because you can't do anything else on the plane, right? Sometimes people are like, I need to relax now. I'm going to watch a movie. No, take a few minutes, like review your notes, pick the things. And then that on the plane or day one, when you prioritize 1, 2, 3 things you're going to do, that's leverage because you've just said everything else goes away. We're going to focus on these. I think that's absolutely a way to leverage to get those more done in less time.
100%. 100%.
Interesting. All right. If you have any like advice or tips in terms of ways people can add leverage to their business, we got a couple minutes left, but I do want you to also tell people if they have referrals in Cleveland for you, if they have questions about scaling a team, if they have questions on adding leverage as a solo agent, right? Or their team agents, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. Michael Henry on Facebook, available via direct message there. I'll drop my cell phone number in the chat. I'm happy to have conversations with anybody, but yeah, we're in the Cleveland, Ohio market.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So any last pieces of advice that you could add, from your career, starting a nonprofit to now running a successful real estate team, anything you could add in terms of pulling it all together for leverage?
Yeah, I guess, just try to be aware and think about where are the bottlenecks in your business, right? Where are you finding yourself spending a little bit more time? Deep down, you probably shouldn't be spending so much time in one particular area. And how can you overcome that? How can you find a hack, a way around it and improve upon it even. Maybe it's through a tool, maybe it's through an online tool, maybe it's, through a person and a team member or someone in your office. But whatever it is, you're going to learn about it through conversations and through learning through other people. So just, I guess, keep an open mind and, continue to do training, get involved, attend events. And those were, the best ideas and tools, I think, have always come to me. So.
I love it, Michael. Michael and I actually met at an event years ago. That's where we first met.
That's right.
So you never know where you're going to find some of your friends also. But these have been really fun, Michael. I truly appreciate you coming on Agent Power Huddle and sharing knowledge and just walking us through how your brain works.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate you being here and keeping it conversational. So be to chat with anybody who wants to keep the conversation going. Give me a shout.
Have a wonderful day, guys. We're here tomorrow with Linnea Carver doing Friday Power Tips. And if you just dropped in the chat box, we dropped Michael's last episode. If you missed that one on Tuesday, talking about getting back to the basics in the tough market. So make sure you check that out. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Thank you guys. All right.
All right, buddy.
All right. See ya.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our eXp organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about eXp or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.